I'm really excited that I have the first 2023 gaming laptop that I was able to get in this year, and this is the Strix G18. So let's just start with an unboxing. So yeah, the unboxing experience definitely isn't as premium as the Scar line, but that's okay. At $24.99, this is an incredible deal. So sometimes I would dedicate an entire video to just an unboxing, but because the unboxing experience was so minimal, I decided just to cram everything into one video. I know the Scar packaging is much better. I need to remind myself all the time that this is not the Scar, this is the Strix. There are some trade-offs that I've been noticing. But before I get into all that, let's start talking about the build and the design. This thing is taking up my entire frame, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to film, but I'll do my best. So, you start off here with the ROG logo. This is similar to every Scar. Even though this is a complete redesign, it is very, very similar. The design language is still very, very similar to before. But anyway, so you have the ROG logo right here. That looks as nice as ever. And now you just have these lines. It's like in the shape of a triangle, and it just says ROG repeated several times. Just in case you were wondering if this is an ROG laptop, you're reminded several times. I mean, I'm not trying to knock the build quality. I was like, the extra detail that Asus does. This back doesn't protrude as much. For better or worse, one thing I liked about the previous design is the screen was pushed forward a little bit more, so it made it a little bit more immersive, but I can imagine some people might prefer a more flush looking laptop instead of having the protruding back. So let's keep on going around. So around the sides, you have two USB type A's. This is where the light strip is, and I'll show that in a second. This is where your ventilation is. It does blow a little bit hot. There's no more ports at the back, for better or worse. I always prefer my ports on the side. It just makes it easier to get to. This is a huge heatsink right here, and you can actually kind of see this radiator at the back. Followed by more plastic. If you did have the Scar version, you would have a light strip right here. That's missing on the cheaper line. And you can also see at the back, you have Republic of Gamers etched at the back. That's one thing I like about Asus. Even though this is like the lowest version of their Strix, they still injected their DNA into it, and that's always appreciated. So here you have a power cable, and I'm happy to report that now they're using a 330 watt power brick. This was introduced on the Scar 17 SE, which I did have, but I never did any type of coverage on it. It's a 330 watt power brick, and it's much lighter and smaller than even the previous 280 watt power brick. So anyway, continuing with the tour, you have an Ethernet port, HDMI, which I confirmed is connected to the GPU, so you're able to get G-Sync and you're able to bypass Optimus if you're connected to HDMI. Very, very important if you plan on plugging this into a TV. This one's Thunderbolt, and this one is USB Type-C. They both support DisplayPort. It's the non-Thunderbolt port that connects directly to the GPU. Also important. And there's a headphone jack, which I haven't tested out yet. I plan on doing that. Again, you're seeing some ROG design language in here. Even though this is a bit of the lower end model, from the pictures I see with the Scar, there's some rubber feet. Here, the rubber feet is very, very minimal. It's just on the four corners. Well, that's about it for the exterior. Let's open this guy up. So here you're greeted to the keyboard deck. You can see the keyboard lighting is really nice. This is the same level of keyboard lighting that we saw on the Scar series last year. But anyway, so you can see there's ROG etched in here into the plastic. Power button, the keyboard, full number pad, which I do like. One thing I will report on though is the speakers, which sound really good. So let's do a little speaker test. So it sounds pretty good, pretty punchy. I think it sounds as good as the Scar did last year. It's definitely missing some clarity, but overall, this already is one of the better sounding gaming laptops compared to what I've compared to last year. It's not Legion level, it's not MSI GE76 level, it's definitely not Razer 17 level, and I have a Razer Blade 18 coming in tomorrow, so I'm really interested to see how the speaker test does on that model. So get subscribed. Something like battery I haven't been able to test yet because I've only had this for 48 hours. I'm going to be doing a full review on this. Alright guys, let me know if you're able to hear this. There's definitely some coil whine here. So this is one of the coil whines that I was able to pick up. There's another one that gives kind of like a buzzing sound when it's under load. I'm not able to pick that up on the microphone though. I've tried. I think it's mainly because the actual sounds of the fans drown it out. I barely hear it though, but you know, I don't know how I feel about that. This is a very early unit, so maybe this stuff could get ironed out eventually. Okay, as I was talking, it's gone. So it's hit or miss. I'm going to keep on monitoring this throughout my long-term use of the Strix G18. Anyway, back to the regular video. So let's talk about my favorite section, which is the display. Before I get into my numbers, which I ran all my typical tests on, I will say that this is an excellent panel. It's my first time seeing an 18-inch panel that is in a 16:10 aspect ratio. You could go back and forth whether you prefer 16:9 versus 16:10, but this one is what it is, and I can imagine most people preferring 16:10. And this screen is big and immersive. It's a lot of fun to game on this 18-inch screen. I don't find myself needing to go to my monitor. I don't find myself needing to connect to a TV. Because of the distance I'm sitting from this laptop, I feel like I'm almost fully immersed in the games that I'm playing. And I think I'm going to have a hard time determining whether I prefer something more portable or something more immersive. This kind of really changed the game for me. But I do want to say that in terms of viewing 16:9 content, this is a 17-inch screen, so it's not any bigger than last year's Scar 17, let's say, if you're watching something like a YouTube video or if you're watching anything in 16:9. 100% sRGB, no surprise there. 87% Adobe RGB. I wish I was a bit closer to 90, but I'm okay with this. And 99% of DCI-P3. And NTSC is 86, which is on the higher side, so we're getting better and better display technology every year, not just taller screens, so that's really, really, really nice. And in terms of gamma, I measured a perfect 2.2, and brightness and contrast, one of the most important sections. So a 0% brightness in Windows, it's 24, which could be lower, you know, like some, I sound like a broken record, but there are times when you want to use your laptop in a dimly lit environment or even when it's pitch black and you don't want it to be bright enough to be blinding you. This still is a little bit bright, but more than acceptable. And as you go up, you get to a maximum brightness of 473, not the advertised 500 nits, but 473 nits is incredibly bright. The black point is 0.46, and I did notice that the blacks are a little bit gray. They're not as inky black as you would get with, obviously, an OLED or a mini LED panel. Again, I'm waiting on my Scar 16 to come in so I can do a comparison. It seems like all the Scar 16s are delayed right now, but the contrast is above 1,000 to 1, so the whites pop, and even though those blacks don't look completely black, the overall subjective quality of the screen is excellent. I was playing through some of my single player games last night and I was having a blast. When I look at something like one of those OLED TV tests that you would find on YouTube, things kind of fell apart a little bit, so I can imagine if you're playing like a scary game like the new Dead Space or whatever horror game comes out or any game where you're probably in space, those blacks might be a little bit too gray for you, but overall, I mean, this is me seeing like just about every single gaming laptop last year. I'm happy with the contrast ratio so far this year, and overall, I'm happy with this display. Color accuracy out of the factory is great. You're getting a delta E of less than 1, which is almost perfect. All right, so let's talk gaming performance. So this is where we're at. I chose some of the most powerful laptops that I had last year, and I'm comparing them against the RTX 4080 with the 13980 CPU, and it is destroying them. I was not expecting this big of a jump from the 4080, and I haven't even gotten a 4090 in yet, so I can't wait to see what that looks like. But anyway, I'm getting a total score of 18,044, and this is without any tweaking. The GPU was getting 18,599, and the CPU was getting 15,436. And if you look at the graph, it's leaps and bounds better than anything that I had last year. And mind you, all of these laptops were between $36.99 and over $4,000 US. The fact that this is $24.99 means I cannot be complaining about the plasticky build. The Strix G18 does exactly what it set out to do. But that's just benchmarks. All that means is this runs Time Spy really well. How about some actual games? So I ran it through the typical set of games that I typically look at. So look at that, 109 FPS versus like 62 on the Legion 3080. So this is insane. I'm not even using DLSS or anything crazy like that. If we were to look at 1440p, it is destroying it again. Like, and I had to rerun this because I was like, there's no way I'm running my settings correctly. But that's what I'm getting. So this is just nuts. This is like a whole new level. And then when we go to Guardians of the Galaxy, and then same thing here, it's just on a whole new level. So here's the Legion, which got 97 FPS, and here I'm getting 127 FPS. That is just nuts. I hate to say it, but if you've been thinking about upgrading, unless you're getting like an incredibly good sale, I can't imagine going with last year's chips. Like, it's such a crazy difference. And Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So let's start off with 4K first. So at 4K, I'm getting 84 FPS versus the best, which was 64 FPS. So these are incredibly large gains, and I was not expecting that. So 1440p, 161 FPS. This is like leaps and bounds better. When I'm gaming on this laptop, I've noticed the frame difference easily. There's no question about it. And one thing I did test was the frame generations. On Cyberpunk, I got 76 FPS with the frame generation versus 52 normally. I do want to spend some time testing that. I don't know how it's going to look. I typically don't like frame interpolations on my TV or anything like that, so I'm really interested to see how NVIDIA actually utilize it, and if it's going to give it a soap opera effect, then I'm probably not going to use it. I will spend some time analyzing that, and I'll report back on my opinions on that. So 78 FPS versus 48 on the 3080 Duo, and 86 versus 71. Not too crazy difference in gains at 1080p, but there's only 16 gigs of RAM on this particular SCAR unit. So those are the games that I tested, and it's phenomenal. I'm going to spend some more time with this laptop, and I'm going to come out with a full review, but this is just a quick video to get you guys started. All right, guys, thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.